All right, welcome back. We are excited to be with you guys yet again. I want to start with a review from one of you guys. This is on Spotify. This is on our episode about saying yes to God and what does it look like to take the next right step. This is from Chet. It says, what an awesome testimony. Praise God to see what he's done. He's redeemed a terrible and hurtful thing. What hope to see a marriage restored and then children pursuing Christ in their own faith. Amen. Yeah. Hallelujah. Literally encompasses so much of why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. So thank you for taking the moment to just share with us what's on your mind. Yet again, this is one of the easiest ways that you guys can support us. If you leave a review, either on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, we would love it if you would take the time to do that. And it really encourages us as well, which is we're super grateful about. Yeah. Okay, so let's just start this episode off right. What's a quirk that I have?
A peculiar thing you do.
A peculiar thing? What is a peculiar thing you do? A peculiar behavioral habit is the definition of quirk. Do I have one that is just, you know...
That's just what?
That's just on your mind. Brad did not know I was going to throw that question at him. So now I'm kind of scared about what he's going to say.
I'm trying to think of weird things you do daily.
Daily?
I mean, isn't that a quirk?
Quirks are not like necessarily something you do every single day, just unusual. Like, okay, that's not a normal thing.
Here's what's weird is I don't know.
You don't know any weird quirks that I have?
I don't know if it's not normal. I mean...
Oh, so now my quirks have become so normal to you, you just think they're normal?
Listen, I'm a perfect husband. Okay. No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I know that there's things that you would talk about or that you used to do that I thought were crazy. Like, you know, you told me you used to eat Cheerios with orange juice. I thought that was...
Yeah, my family does still to this day.
That's a quirk.
Do that.
That's weird.
But I don't anymore because I don't even eat cereal.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I did on the cereal topic, I did just hear this from one of our kids, that they have a friend that pours the milk in the bowl before the cereal.
Yeah, that is also a weird quirk.
Yeah, there's nothing right about that.
Just straight you're savagely wrong in destroying all principles of cereal use.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I'll tell you one of your weird quirks.
Yeah, please.
Speaking of cereal. Well, I'll give you one of mine too, since you can't seem to think of one. You got to
get my brain going.
I definitely am like a person, if I'm around anyone.
I'll finish this.
Okay.
She will pick up the accent.
Yeah. It's a problem. Like, it's a problem. Yeah. Like, I have to actually, in my brain, tell myself, Lisa, don't do it. Don't do that. Don't try to imitate this accent. And there's an actual definition for that. I can't remember, but I looked it up. Like, there are certain people who naturally want to imitate other people.
It's so funny. I think it comes from your empathetic side.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because that's
spinning it positive.
It is hilarious. So you know how people, when, you know, if someone doesn't understand the language you're speaking, you end up speaking louder, you know, or if someone's not, you know, it's like they don't understand. You could yell, they don't get it. Yeah. They don't speak English, whatever it is, right? You know, people always get louder when they speak. And it's like, for you, it's not louder. It's just like, we're both going to speak English. They have a really heavy accent, so I'm going to match the accent so it helps them understand.
My daughter swears to this day. We went on a missions trip in the Philippines, and she was mortified by me because she hates looking like a tourist, which is also like, God bless, girl.
Girl,
like,
you blonde hair, blue eyed. Like,
come on, you look like a tourist. But she swears that we went to a Starbucks one day and I ordered the Starbucks in a Filipino accent and it mortified her. And I had no idea that I did it. Like none. I just was like living my best life in that moment.
Yeah.
So it's an actual quirk that I have for sure.
Yep.
And I've heard other people have it as well. So you could have empathy for me as well. One of your weird quirks is the drinking or not drinking. You just took a drink and then that's why I said that.
One of your quirks is drinking. You need to stop doing that. Okay.
No, you eat cereal out of a coffee cup, which
Absolutely.
is weird.
It's mobile.
No, and this is the thing. This is
I can
I'll
go
tell
to
you
the
why.
couch.
I'll tell you why it disturbs me because we're gonna really dive into how
let's do it.
these quirks can become.
I know why.
issues.
Wait. Let me guess why it disturbs you.
Okay.
It disturbs you because I don't rinse it well enough and there ends up being little chunks of cereal dried on the side of it.
You know this and you still do it. That makes it 1,000 times worse.
I do listen.
No. I thought you were totally unaware of this. So now it's more of a problem, okay? Because here's the deal. If you have a coffee cup or whatever and you're going to rinse it and put it in the dishwasher, you expect that to be a pretty simple process. Mm-hmm. So I'm not expecting to have like residual cereal, like just clinging to the sides. Listen, like they requires a soak.
Cereal or ice cream in a coffee mug is one of the best.
It hits
things.
Different for you.
It does.
Totally. I'm totally fine with this quirk as long as it is rinsed out.
I
properly.
could walk around with it.
I don't care.
I could sit down on the couch.
I can still think it's weird, but as long as you properly take care of it afterwards, I'll be okay with it. Now that I know that you know, that's actually a problem for me. One of your other very weird quirks.
Oh man, lay it out. Lay it out.
Bring it. I've talked about this before in another episode, but you hate hair. Like you hate hair that's not on someone's head. Okay?
Yeah. I don't like hair in my food.
Okay. Yes. But you are so extreme about it. It's like,
gross.
I'm not saying no one likes to find a hair in their food, but like, even if it's like your family's hair in the food, you're just like, well, and this meal's over for me. Like I'm done now. Even though
you want to tell them why this
we have told this story before.
And it's gross.
Yes.
Okay. I had to throw the whole thing
And I've
out.
also said that, okay.
It's like a horror movie.
It's so dramatic. But you will not pick up hair from the shower drain.
No.
You'll throw it though. No, you will pick it up. That makes it even worse. You will pick it up and
flick it out of the way.
But that requires you to pick it up.
So no, because I could just like flick it
onto the shower wall.
Well, wherever it lands, it lands. But I just need to get it away from the drain because it's blocking water from going down.
I'll walk it. You're lucky I don't shed it
By the
tremendously.
way, there is a clump.
So,
yeah.
Thank you, Brad.
You're welcome. I haven't flicked it anywhere.
By the way, in case you've wondered how you failed as a wife today, there is a clump in the shower currently that I have restrained from flicking against the side of the shower. Thank you, Brad.
Oh, gosh.
But you will rub my hair every night.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bother you. Does it?
I mean, it's not
Are
off
we
your
about
head.
to reveal?
Well, no, it's not off your head.
I feel like that's a quirk though, because it's like you'll be rubbing my hair, like my hair will still, shed while you're doing that.
No, very rarely. Sometimes your hair gets stuck in my Qualo ring because it's rubber or whatever it is. And then yet last night, one of your hairs was stuck on my head. I could not get it off.
On your head?
Yeah. Because I shaved my head and I felt it and I kept now I'm thinking about it's probably stuck on my finger. And every time I went from it was on there. So I was trying to run it off my head and I couldn't get it off.
Just over and
now
over.
Now that I'm thinking about it. But no, that doesn't bother me. It's what grosses me out is the accumulation of a nest of hair and then, wet.
So it's a combination.
Gross. Yeah.
We actually we call her our adopted daughter, but she sheds a lot and she's got dark hair and I have blonde hair. So you don't see it as much, but she knows of Brad's he does not like that. And so she literally took a clump of her hair and put it on Brad's pillow and just thought that was, she thought it was super funny, but then also was very scared. Like there was like a combination of both laughter and fear because she was just
it's a healthy fear.
Is that what it is?
No. I don't think that there's, honestly, I'm trying to think of like unusual things that you do that is a quirk. And I'm really having a hard time.
Well, it is true that after you've been married for so long.
And that's what I think it is. I think it's, because I don't know if leaving doors on cabinets or drawers on cabinets open, I don't know if that's a quirk.
I mean, I would say that it is, because it's kind of like not everyone would do that. It's like an unusual behavior. And yeah, some quirks, you can find them real cute in the beginning, but they can develop into real annoyances along the way.
Yeah, like that does. I mean, I've hit them before in the middle of the night walking through the bathroom.
I'm a saboteur.
Yeah.
I'm basically setting it, like if you've made me mad during the day, then I'm just like,
It sparks my curiosity though, because I'm like, why'd you leave this open? Because when our daughter lived here, I mean, if she went to our bathroom, not just your bathroom, if she went to your bathroom to get ready, it was like all the drawers were open, everything was open, and you used to be like, get so angry about it or mad, whatever.
So angry.
Yeah. But then I go in there sometimes and like 3 drawers are open and the cabinet door's open. I'm like, okay. My curiosity.
Okay, well, now that we're into the bathroom, this is actually where your quirk comes full circle.
I don't know if it's a quirk.
It is a quirk. Full circle. You will trim your beard, and you will leave all the little hairs all over your sink, and also those little hairs that go like along the counter, and it like it does. They get everywhere, and they don't look like hair on your head, by the way.
Well, because it's not from my face.
Okay, but I'm just saying that does not bother you. You will leave those in there.
Because it's not a nest of hair.
Okay, so if I took the nest of hair and spread it out, was that fine?
Maybe. I mean, but it's just like long and stringy.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if hair bothers you, like, I walk in and I just look at them like gross, and does not bother you.
But the shower sink doesn't bother you.
Well, if I notice it, I remove it.
But does it bother you?
No.
Well, then why do you walk in and see mine and go, ugh?
Because it's a bunch of little, doesn't look like head hair all over the sink. That's why. It's 1,000 times more gross. And I will be like, I know that you have tried to, what drives me nuts now? So I've seen you do a mid effort to make it like go away, but it's more like just like a psh, psh, and then like, but it's only gotten rid of maybe 1/4 of the problem. So that's what makes it a full circle quirk.
So what did I do? What were my quirks when we were dating? Do I still have any of those? And
I mean,
what do you think was so irresistible when we were dating?
Our quirks, they can be, you're right. They can be both irresistible and irritating. And it depends on how you look at it, for sure. And I think what can start off as irresistible gets irritating really quickly over the longevity of time.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious. Like, was there, and that's why I feel like we've been married a long time, and that's why I feel that maybe, we don't have any of those, that we're lingering anymore.
I mean, we definitely just went over some.
Well, no, I know, but
from the beginning.
Okay, we went over some, but you weren't in my sink, and I didn't have a beard when we were
when
dating.
we were dating. Yeah,
we were.
Because I feel like when you're dating, the quirks are more appealing. Like as far as you think, oh, that's cute how he, says this way, or, walks this way, or does this thing this way, or, choose this way, or, like all those kind of things that can be kind of cute when, even when your baby's cute, right? Like when they the way that they do things when they're little. And as they get older, you're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like now that just got weird.
Yeah.
But so I'm trying to think when we first, you were so different to me from my norm, really in so many ways, even just because we grew up so differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so even where it came to like location wise or the things that you were used to, like your normal was very different than mine, even though we had the basis of faith that was the same. Mm-hmm. And so I think in a lot of ways that was appealing to me just because it was like, and I think a lot of people experience this almost like, oh, well, that's not normal. Like that's not like a normal guy that I've ever dated, or that's not the way that I'll tell you what was it's still a beautiful, it was a quirk to me, even though it should be a normal, was like the fact that you opened my door for me and that you really made an effort to treat me in a special way as far as like just being a woman. Like that was special to me. I grew up north, and that was not near as common where now that there aren't plenty of gentlemen up north, so please don't misunderstand me, but the people that I had dated and things like that, that was just like not the normal. And you also always said, yes, ma'am, to like
I was just
every
tell
female.
You that. I remember you telling me that, and I still do that. So that maybe that's a quirk. I don't know. I feel like, I guess that's the thing with quirks, right? I don't know if I have any because
it's your normal.
It's my normal. Mm-hmm. But I know that you used to tell me not to tell you that.
Yeah, because I grew up where that was almost insulting. Like as far as you were called ma'am if you were old. Like that was kind of the distinction. And so even growing up, it like with teachers and things, I mean, you would say Mrs. in their last name, but it was never like you wouldn't respond to somebody and say, yes, ma'am. Like
that's wild to me.
I know.
Like you would get beat if you
just
didn't
straight beat.
I mean, that is like, hey, look, people from the South, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm from Texas. I'm not like deep South, but I mean, even guys I know from, Georgia, Kentucky, like all these other places,
like
Tennessee, like, I'm, no qualms about it. Like, if you didn't do that, you got whooped.
Yeah.
Like that
and it was a sign of respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not
like
in
you were
any way
telling everyone.
dishonorable.
And so then it gets to the point of like, no, I'm saying yes, man, because I'm agreeing with what you're saying and I'm showing you respect.
Right.
Right.
And I think that I actually really loved that. And as a 19-year-old, I began to do that in my life because I actually really loved it. And I thought, yeah, that's actually how I want to show a deference to the like people that I'm respecting in my life. And so even when our kids were little and we would go home and visit my family, they still talk about how when our kids were little and I would say something and immediately I'm like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Like that was my expectation of my children to respond to me in that way. So that quirk actually kind of became just like the normal culture in our family.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because these quirks can turn into, something that you just do not like, cannot stand. And then that's the scratching on the chalkboard of your marriage.
That gave me the
that's what it's supposed to do.
I know.
Like, just those irritants that slowly drive a wedge, right?
Yeah.
Or slowly build pain points. Even, I kind of think of it as a little tiny pebble in your shoe. Right? And you're walking all day and it's bothering you. And essentially, as much as it's bothering you, it's a boulder, right? That's what it feels like, and you take your shoe off expecting to see a rock and you shake it and there's this little tiny thing that you would have never even noticed anywhere else.
You don't
and
think
it
it's going to make any difference.
Falls out onto the floor and you're like, that okay. And then now your shoe's better.
Yeah, or you get a tiny little blister, tiniest little thing. And you can barely walk because of that one little tiny blister.
I think of other, we asked people what their quirks in their marriage were and what their, just in general, right? Or like, what are some quirks? And I was thinking about it. We have some good friends and excuse me, he has to smell everything. Mm-hmm. Like it's part of his gathering his senses when he's interested in it, you know? And so, you know, if you hand him a piece of food or like how it tastes this, he has to smell it first, taste it, and it doesn't even have to be food. It could be just something that you hand him. Like I've seen it where he's like, oh yeah, it smells
of leather.
Good. Yeah. You know, and it's just funny to me. It's funny to me.
Right.
But, and I didn't ask his wife this, but just thinking about it, like you could see how it could become something that was endearing at first. And then
it can be embarrassing.
It's like, oh, come on, you do not have to do that.
Right. Like imagine if you're going someplace, you know, to dinner, like a nice dinner, and you don't know the people there, and they, you know, they
you're picking up the plate, smelling it. Wait, hold on, let me smell it. Let me bring it over.
So yeah, I think you can go from endearing to embarrassment really quick when it comes to things that we feel are unusual behaviors. And I think familiarity over time starts to breed contempt when it comes to these things, you know, these quirks, these things that could be really endearing in the beginning. I mean, down to things like how someone celebrates a holiday. You know, they have a specific way that they grew up, and this is what we do on this day. And, you know, you get married and you're trying to develop some normals for your own culture in your own family. And all of a sudden it's like, it's so annoying to me that you expect me to make that cake like your mother every single year. Right. Yeah. Or it's so annoying to me that this is what you think is.
I mean, is that moving into traditions?
Yeah, it can for sure. Because I think quirks get picked up even with traditions over time, you know, but it's not celebrating unless we do it this way.
Yeah.
Right. Or, this is how I operate every time. And it's like, oh, that's really cute. And then all of a sudden you're married for a little bit of time and you're just like, no, I need you to let that go.
Yeah.
Like that's not the important thing here. And I do think that quirks can be traditions because typically, you know, each family has kind of a little bit of their own traditions that are abnormal compared to someone else's. You know, I mean, for us, we celebrate probably the day before someone's birthday, even more than the day, as far as like paying attention to it. Does that make sense? We celebrate birthdays, but like I will the whole day before. It's like, this is the last day that you're doing this. Yeah. This is the last day as a 13-year-old that you're doing this. This is the last time you brush your teeth and it's because I grew up with my mom doing that. And I was always kind of like a special thing, you know, and still to this day, my mom will call me and be like, this is the last day as a 45-year-old, you know? And I'm just like oh, thanks, Mom. bring on the next one.
So are you saying that in sense, like, cause I'm not really understanding. So you have a quirk and you're saying the more familiar it starts to become irritable, right? But is it because it's taking away from that charm, that, you know, that cuteness thing where, and again, I'm trying to think like when we were dating, if there was anything that you did that I thought was like so cute. And, you know, and now I'm like, oh, I wish you'd stop doing that. And I honestly I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
the cupboards would be one thing.
Yeah. But I don't remember looking at that while we were dating and going like, oh, it's so cute that she leaves the cupboard.
Yeah. It was always annoying.
You know, it was just like, you know, not that it was always annoying. I don't even remember you leaving the cupboards.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't live together.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was just like, that wasn't a thing at all, you know? I just like, and
maybe so, because we were married at 22. So we were pretty young. And I think probably a lot of those things we learned to develop together, you know, even our quirks, like you said, we didn't necessarily think that they were quirks because we were just young enough to just, you know, accept that was who we were. But I think even you do develop those like, or where you see them more after you've been married a while, all of a sudden you're just like, oh, that's a thing.
So on a scale of, I don't know, 1 to 10 or whatever, the cereal, the the residual of a cereal in a coffee mug that hasn't been rinsed out well enough. Now, I will say I rinse them out and I'll put them in the dishwasher, but sometimes I don't rinse them well enough and then that gets stuck, whatever, right? Doesn't matter. But on a scale of 1 to 10, like, is that something you see it and you're just like, again, like, here we go. You know, like, he did this thing I once thought was funny and cute, and I would tell everyone, like, yeah, it's hilarious. He drink, you know, whatever. And to now where it's just this, like, really? Again, with the coffee mug. Like, we have bowls, use a bowl.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the bowl or cup, it's annoying when there's residual. Like, the boys will do that with cereal. So is it the cup
too. Or the residual?
Yeah, it's the residual. But I would say, I mean, the annoyance, this is the first time we have verbalized this out loud.
Yeah.
I have never said to you anything about it, but you'll know, right? Just because of like my reaction or the fact that like I'm over there like, okay, I guess I'm going to clean this.
I just, because thinking about, quirks or, this is part of their charm. This is who they are. I think it's cute that when they do this, and maybe it is the way they chew their gum or, I don't know, the way they answer the phone or, whatever, right? Like these little things that you found attractive or you found cute. And now it's this, familiarity breeds less attention to the charm. Stress and daily routines, they dull like romantic lenses, which
and it's like our tolerance level, right? Like we don't tolerate things that we would tolerate in strangers, that we would tolerate in,
and that goes
people around
for us. All
100%.
Even now, not just for sure. There's things you will let people you don't really know get away with, quote unquote, versus your own family, right? But I think that a lot of this stuff, there's unmet things, needs, whatever they are in a marriage, and that magnifies the small things. Like we've talked about in the past where, I don't know if this is a quirk. Maybe it's more normal than I think, but my closet is a mess. We don't have separate closets, by the way. So like my side of the closet, right? You go into our closet, it's like a T, right? A very short T. And you go, the left side is mine and the right side is Lisa. My closet is a mess.
Now, I'll tell you what's a quirk of yours. Not the messy closet. This goes in with your messy closet. Is all of a sudden, Rob, well, someone took my jeans. Or
that was that not true?
Okay. No. Okay.
Wait. Oh, no. Hold up.
Apparently, one of the boys did have your jeans at one point. Yeah. Okay,
but the jeans I'm wearing right now, you accuse. I said, who took my jeans? You're like, baby, nobody's taking your clothes. I'm like, nope. I've looked everywhere. They're not here.
You do this every time. Like I have learned because I got this from my mom. Right? If you tell me something is lost, I go a little bit into like a panic mode of just like, what do we got to do to find this thing that's lost, And I've learned over the years not to panic with you because it takes about 2 days and all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I found that knife that was missing.
I found that. Of any situation where you should panic with something I say.
But I'm just telling you, like, this is where different normals are, right? Like with my mom, when we would tell her, I lost my license or something, right? And she would not stop until that license was found. Yeah. And I've learned with you, just let it be, right? But down to even like just today, you're like, we need compression socks for traveling. I had a pair. It's gone.
I didn't say they were gone. I said I couldn't find them. Yes. You said they were gone. I said I couldn't find them. But here's the deal. We're gone off track because I was totally going somewhere. Yes. But here's the deal. You specifically brought up these jeans. They were found in my son's closet, and I could not find them for the life of me. But no, they're like, who's going to take your jeans?
Which is also ironic because eventually they got thrown down, rewashed, and then I was like, are these your jeans? Which means they just threw them down.
I'm just saying, that's where they were found. Yes. I did not have them.
Yes.
So what I was getting at was these unmet needs, built up resentment. It magnifies those small things where, you know, we've talked about it before. It's not really the sock on the floor. It's not really the blanket out of place. It's not really the throw pillow isn't on the couch, isn't on the right couch. That throw pillow goes on that couch. You know, it's not 100% about that.
Correct.
There's a lot behind that, right? More of, it's not the sock, it's that you're not listening to me when I've asked you,
right?
Can you not put your stuff there?
Or you don't see all the effort I put into things.
When this throw pillow is supposed to go on this one and this one on this one, which is not like that in our house, but like these have to go here, and they're not here. And every single time you don't do that, to me, you're showing you don't care. So and in essence, you don't listen. So you don't love me like you say you love me.
You don't appreciate my effort.
You don't appreciate my efforts. You don't care what I do around the house. And it's this whole thing where in reality, you know, that spouse's brain that put the pillow in the wrong spot, or the sock in that corner, or the blanket that's out of place, that is the lowest part of his or her priority. That it's as soon as that sock hit that carpet, I forgot all about it because I have all these other things going on. Not that I'm trying to disrespect you or anything like that. It's just that's what happened, you know?
And there's a balance here, right? I think that's
Absolutely.
what we have to strive for is, you know, just our last episode talked about serving, right? And so we can make an effort to serve our spouse and love our spouse, right? Like find out how your spouse defines love. Like what does love look like it as literally walking it out, right? What does it mean that, hey, when you pick up the sock on the floor, like it shows to me that you see me, you want to make my load lighter, all of that stuff. And then also, so yeah, we want to serve. And then also recognizing when we have to let go.
Yeah.
Like that is just the sock on the floor, and like finding that balance.
Yeah. And it's hard. And I think that a lot of it, especially I want to say especially in today's world, but I feel that, you know, when they were, when people were settling the West, that it was a very stressful time too. But I feel that, you know, stress and fatigue highlight these things.
Absolutely.
And they make you start thinking differently. And that's why, you know, I relate a lot back to my experiences. And we want, in my world, I want to stress and fatigue someone to the point of I see
who you are,
who they are and how they act, right? It's not just who they are, but how are you going to interact with all these other people around you when you're at this level now? You're not getting your 8 hours. You didn't get breakfast. You barely got a lunch. We've been stressing you out all day. You've been having to make these decisions, and you're
not at your A game anymore.
You're wet. You're tired. Everything's heavy. Like life sucks. How are you interacting with those dudes now? You know, and I think that a lot of this in marriage, stress and fatigue. You know, I mean, we've had, you know, maybe 2 months of I don't even like to call it stress and fatigue because we've dealt with it differently. But in essence, yes, it's on this level of stressors and that fatigue us, and then along with that, you know, and nothing crazy, you know, not like these, you know, some heavy issues, some not, lots of changes happening, you know. Now we're down to, for at least a while, we're down to one kid in the house, you know, and schedule changes, and then continuing to serve outside of our house like we do, and we want to, we absolutely love doing things like that. So it's not to keep us busy, it's to help, you know. So it's all these other facets, and then you put all that together and you have these stressors and fatigues. You have no outlet. You're not leaning on God, on Christ like you should. Like you're not doing these things, and an outlet is very important. You should always have an outlet, some kind of healthy outlet, but an outlet, right? And you're not getting that outlet and all those things. And then all of a sudden, you know, I walk in the kitchen and 3 cupboard doors are open. the lights on and all this stuff. And I start getting really annoyed.
Right.
And I'm like, close that. And I'm probably closing them a little too hard. And so then you might be upstairs and all of a sudden you're hearing
Like, why are you
cabinet
angry?
slamming, and then now you're like, oh, I left those open. Now he's mad. Why is he, all those things. And I'm not having an outlet. Now these things are bothering me. Now that thing's bothering me, and it's just this whirlwind.
And it is the people closest to us that get that first.
Yeah, because you're going to put, which is sad. Listen, hear me out. It's sad though, but you're going to put your best foot forward for a stranger 100% of the time and you won't do that 100% of the time in your family. There's a beautiful thing with that, right? Where, my kids know that they don't need to have their best foot forward every time. Like, this is family. I'm their father. Like, I understand, so there's this beautiful aspect of it. But then if you're not striving for that, right? We preach that we need to continue to date each other and pursue each other and do all these things in this marriage. And if we're not doing that, then that's something that I'm not giving you my best anymore. But someone comes to the door, the stranger, or I meet some stranger out, whatever, I'm going to give them my best immediately. I thought it was cool how one of our friends, he's hilarious. He cracks me up all the time. And I think he cracks you up so much that I think that there's quirks he does when we're together, sharing a meal or hanging out, where his wife probably usually gets annoyed, but then when we're there and we start laughing about it, I think it kind of reminds her like, oh, it is kind of funny, in a good way. Right. And they've worked on their marriage and it's been great. Like, they have a very healthy marriage. We were at church and I got in late on this conversation, but all I heard him say, he's like, no, that's one of my perks. And I just started laughing because I knew immediately what he was talking about. Yeah. I don't know what perk he was talking about, but I thought it was just so funny because I'm like, that is such, it was a joke, first of all, like 100% a joke. But at the same time, like, there was a lot of wisdom behind that, and it's not something where you're dismissive of a flaw,
Correct.
Where, I can't think of anything right now, so I'm just going to say this. So it's like, if you constantly chew with your mouth open and it's just like gross, like, that's not,
you need to do something about that.
That's not a perk.
No,
that is something where it's like, man, that's kind of gross. I could see what you're eating, or stop talking while you're chewing with your mouth. I'm like, this is getting gross. That's a normal thing. And I know some people chew with their mouth. I'm like, get it. But that's a normal thing around that people like, you shouldn't do that. It's kind of rude, right? So we're not talking about something like that, but I thought it was a great way to reframe.
Yeah.
That's really what it was.
That's huge.
Where it's like, oh, he just always has to smell that. Something before he tries it, or if he really likes it, he has to smell it. And so when you're explaining that to someone that doesn't know, that's new, and they see him smelling something, they kind of like, that's, maybe they're not doing anything, they're just watching him, and it's like, spouse, let me explain this. He always has to smell everything. This isn't, I know it's kind of weird, but I'm trying to explain to you, like, this is fine, where it's this explanation of, please don't think we're weird. We got to do this, where the reframing is, no, you know what? Like, he's really interested in this.
Yeah. Fully immersed.
Yeah. He wants to try a bite of this so much that he wants to get all senses. He's already seen it.
Yeah.
I want to feel it. I want to smell it. And I think there's he's not weird, or the reframing of like, no, this is a perk. He wants to get as much of this as he can.
Right.
Because you brought this and he's super interested in it, and he's not dismissive of it, and he's not anything. He just wants to be able to say, when he tastes it, he wants to say, it smelled great, it looked great, it tasted great, the feel was awesome. Like, this is amazing. Like, it was a full experience for him.
Right.
And I think that reframing is so important.
No, it's huge
in marriage, where there are these things that inherently it's going to annoy you, right? It could be like, I know that you've said this to me before. I don't need the bed fixed, right? Like there's some people they need, like, I'm not saying this is a bad habit by any means, but it's all those videos where you see like the like super ripped, influencer, like Jack dude. And, this is my morning, alarm goes off at some ungodly time, like 2 a.m. I'd like jump out of bed. I immediately jump out of bed, attack the day. I make my bed, and then I go, dunk my face in cold water or do a cold plunge. And then I go on a 20-mile run, and then breakfast by, 4 a.m. What have you done with your life? Kind of deal. Like, I'm not saying that making your bed's a bad thing, but I don't necessarily need the bed made. Like, I don't expect when I come home or it's time to go to bed, I'm not like, man, when I walk in that room, like the bed needs to be like, inviting, right? Nothing like that. But I do, when I get in bed, I do want the sheets like a certain way, right? And I have a weighted blanket, and everyone makes fun of me about it. Maybe that is a quirk, but I like my weighted blanket. I love it. We're getting ready to travel. I wish I could take one, but
I wish you could too, guys, because it keeps them a little more under control.
I'm not carrying that on my back, nor am I paying extra to ship that down there. So whatever. But I want the covers. They can't be on my face, right? But if it's cool enough in the room, or if it's wintertime, like I want them up by my chest, but they can't be on my face. So then I have to like get that fold in them. So like I'll grab them, pull them over my head to like make sure that they're all straight and like taut, like great. All the little wrinkles are out. Okay. And then whoop, do the fold to get it like.
FYI, it does not matter if I am in the way of said fold. That man will totally like yank covers out from under my arm.
It's a perk, baby. It's a perk.
Pull it over my face, and then and I'm like, oh, okay. I guess
that's
this is
that's a perk.
Perspective shift.
I know you like the blanket on your nose when you go to bed, so I'm just getting it all there.
You're so lovely.
Yep, it's a perk.
But I do the reframing thing is so huge.
And that's what I was getting at, where like, I know that does, like, you've laughed about it. You've told people about it. You're like, oh, this always, but it is a reframing of, I'm not trying to be mean to you. Like, I'm not even trying to like throw the covers over your face. I'm not trying to, in fact, I try not to, I try to get it so it's only like my half of the bed that gets this technique done.
Well, also, and part of that too is knowing like, this is that, serving and loving, like, I probably 99% of the time have the bed made, and part of that is in this. And
I appreciate that.
Is the love of just like, okay, I know like you like the covers a certain way, and I do too. Yeah. But it's just, I think the reframing and then meeting each other in those spaces is such a big deal. Like, I know for you, and we've talked about this in other episodes, is like the side of the closet just drives you nuts, right? But I think what we've navigated through in our marriage gives us a unique perspective on reframing things. And that enables us to not near as often get caught in the little traps that can so easily trap you in making you look at your spouse as the enemy versus the teammate that you are called to have.
It's the wedge, and it's just this, it's like the pebble in the shoe. There's nothing inherently wrong with your marriage. And then stressors, things happen. Maybe there's not a breach, this huge breach, right? It's just
life.
Average marriage, right? Going through it. And all of a sudden that thing's starting to bother you. And then this thing's starting to bother you. And then this thing.
Nobody willing to move.
Nope. No one willing to move. And it's like, and then it's the whole, that's just the way I am. So you married me. That's just the way I am. Where it's like, well, no, now that I know, like 100% know that you don't like residual cereal, like I'm going to work harder, and it's not even that hard. It's just, I'm going to rinse it out a little better.
Yeah.
you know?
And vice versa, like in me knowing that it was something I was subconsciously doing, cupboards being open. And I actually do work hard at making sure that I close them. Not that I'm doing it perfectly every time, right? But I do think about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to try to do those things. I'm not going to excuse a quirk I have well, you married me like that, or you did that, because the person you married is not the same person I am now.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesus. And vice versa.
Yeah. And we're not the same people at all. And I think that that's important. And it's important to understand that, because instead of just writing it off, like, be intentional of trying to figure out how I could either not do that, because maybe it is something that's just not good, that's not, I don't know why I do that. I've always done that, but I get where you're coming from, so I'm not going to do it anymore.
Which is, by the way, a laying down of pride.
Absolutely.
Which we talked about in last episode. Like, this kind of stuff means I have to lay down pride and say, I have the capacity for change. I want to be better. I want to meet my spouse. Like, it's huge.
But you could get to the point of the little problems have become have grown into a big problem that you can't even point back to what started this.
Right.
And then, what you're pointing to is what's happening now, what's happening now is less communication, no intimacy physically, no intimacy emotional, no care. Like, there's roommates in the house, ships passing by at night, like all these things happening.
Both in your separate corners. Yeah, I'm right.
You have kids. All you're talking about is like logistics of just moving kids around and feeding and grocery shopping and all that. And then you wonder why this has happened. And then you're trying to point at your spouse. Well, no, it's something they did. And he continually does.
And I'm not moving until they move.
Yeah. And then, and then that quirk is so much more than it ever should have been.
Absolutely.
It's turned into something that you resent. And then more and more things they do, you resent, because you're looking through a lens of enemy and hurt and all those things, instead of, that's the person, that's my wife I've chosen to love through rich or poor, through thicker, all those things. I've chosen to do these things, and now I'm not. And you're not seeing her through that lens anymore. You're seeing her through, there's always hair on the floor. There's always cupboards open. There's always...
They never listen to me.
Yeah,
they don't ever do anything around here. And it's so easy to get to that place. And I think there's probably a lot of people who feel they're in that place. And I think it's really easy to take the stance of, I'm right and I stay in this corner. And then you just watch marriages implode over the little quirks that they could reframe. And you have to start thinking about things like, if, God forbid, I mean, sometimes it sounds like a weird thing to do it this way, but worst case scenario, if my spouse passed away, is this going to be the thing that I wanted our marriage to just degrade over?
Yeah.
Like is this going to be it?
It's the whole hill to die on, right? I mean, that's really what this comes down to. And it's so true. We have, 2 kids out of the house now. There are things they did while they were here that annoying, for sure. Right? Love them unequivocally, just there's things they did just annoying. Now we miss it a little bit.
Some of it I don't.
Yeah. But you know what I'm getting at,
absolutely,
right?
Where it's like the little
the little things.
Like
I've had grandparents pass away, and my grandfather that was here that spent a lot of time over at the house, that spent time on the phone with you, that you had to hang up on him a few times, all these things, this great loving relationship, and those things that we were annoyed about, right? Quirks that he did, right? And now what?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of your grandpa, who I probably talked to on the phone almost every day.
Yeah.
When he passed away, and it was like, but he was one of the things that he just could not stand was you could not hang up on him. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, he had to be the one who initiated that this conversation was going to end. Yeah. But if you were busy, it was like, oh, well, you're too busy and you don't love me, you know? And it was just one of those things, like, it made me laugh, but also drove me a little crazy because we'd be legitimately busy. And like, I knew Grandpa would be just like, well, I'll let you go then. Yeah. You're too busy. Yeah. But I miss those things because ultimately he was so invested in our lives and loved us so much that he wanted to have, I mean, there was not a time that it rained here that I did not, I knew.
He was calling.
He was going to call me and tell me, like, what's it like over there? What's the rain? You know?
It's reframing.
Yeah.
All over again, too. It really is, because it was like these things he did that got on our nerves or annoyed us, you know, like you're saying. And then we missed those. But also, what was it coming from? It wasn't coming from a place to annoy us.
I'm not trying to you know, like basically insert myself in places where you're busy. No, it wasn't that at all.
It was literally coming like, I'm invested in you guys. I'm invested in the kids. I want to know your day. Like, I want to understand what's going on. I want to help if there needs to be help. Yeah. I'm going to buy eggs and bacon at Costco because I'm at Costco and I know that you go through them. You know, like, I'm going to do these things. Yeah. And so it wasn't, you know, hey, calling, I want to talk to you. Oh, you're too busy. Oh, okay. It wasn't this, there was no ill intention out of it.
And I think that this is like a really good way to put it is like, man, reframe before a loss.
Yeah.
Like, reframe before you potentially lose your marriage. Or,
I was going to say, it doesn't have to be a physical loss.
No.
This is like, literally reframe before kids. Reframe before the kid moves out of the house. Yeah. Reframe before your marriage is lost. Like, that's what's lost.
Yeah, before your connection is so severed. Before you're like, this is so huge. I mean, I think this is just heavy on my mind right now, that reframing, because man, you're right. We've gone through so many stressors in the last couple months, and that reframing aspect of it changes the way you can look at everything, right? Like, we can focus on loss, or we can focus on joy. We can focus on things that have changed, or we can look forward to change. Like, those pivots that we make along the way determine the direction that we go, and they determine the direction we look. So if I choose to look at my spouse a certain way and it's negative, I will go that direction.
Yep.
And if I choose, and this is like the choice that you make, right? Is like, I'm going to look at my spouse like this. I'm going to look at these quirks as perks, right? Like, I'm not going to allow those things that are not the big things become the all-encompassing hill to die on. I'm going to get to the root issues, and I'm going to choose to look at my spouse as my teammate and go after connection. Yeah. It changes your direction. Like, it changes where you go, and it's important that you go the right place.
I love, just reframing, understanding marriage. I mean, a marriage that's healthy, that's happy, it's two people that are good forgivers and also have a high tolerance for weirdness. Like, that's really what it comes down to, right? I mean, think about that, right? Like, a good marriage, it's two people that can forgive, right? Forgivers, right? Two people that are good at forgivers with a high tolerance for weirdness, period. Yeah. It's just...
Because you're weird too, by the way. We all are weird.
We're all weird.
We all have quirks.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And that's what makes people, right? If we all acted the same, that'd be so boring and dull. And yeah, you don't want that. Like, I don't want you to act the same way I act.
No.
Like at all.
Part of the reason we fell in love with each other was the fact that we didn't act the way the other person did. And that's what you have to remember. That's the reframing you have to have, is those differences do not have to divide you. Mm-mm. Those differences do not have to be the hill you die on. And yes, high tolerance for weirdness. I really like that. So challenge for this week. I would say if you have one of those quirks or your spouse has one of those quirks and it is driving you crazy, that you can find a way to reframe it, to look at it as a perk and to be a good forgiver and a high tolerance for weirdness.
Yeah.
There you go. See you next week.